யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேடீர்.
செம்மொழி வலையொலி யூடியூப் சேனல். இந்த சேனலின் மூலமாக, அந்த வலையொலியின் மூலமாக பல்வேறு தகவல்களை தினந்தோறும் நாங்கள் வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நிலையில் முழுமையாக கண்டு பார்க்கலாம்.
The title of this paper is Nachinarkiniyar, Commentator as Critic. One of the most prolific commentators, Nachinarkiniyar, has to his credit profound commentaries on Tolgapiyam, Pathupattu, Kalitogai, Sivakasindamani and 20 poems of Kurundogai. This list is given in this Venba. Parat Tolgapiyamum, Pathupattum Kaliyum, Ara Kurundogayul Ainangum, Sarat Tiruttagu Mamunisai Sindamaniyam, Virutti Nachinarkiniyame. Of these, the fragmentary work on Kurundogai is not available. The formidable scholar is believed to have lived in the 13th or 14th century. Since he mentions the names and ideas of Ilamburanar, Senavarayar and Perashiriyar and discusses some of the statements of the author of Nannul and of Adiyark Nallar, he has to be assigned a date later than that of these. In his interpretation of the word Kodaham occurring in a stanza in Sivakasindamani, he makes use of the explanation found in Sudamani Nigandu, which is reported to have appeared during the time of Krishnadevaraya, the reputed king of Vijayanagar. This piece of information has led some of the literary historians to conclude that Nachinarkiniyar belonged to the 14th century. That he was well versed in literature, grammar and prosody is evident from the fact that he has chosen to interpret the monumental grammatical treatise Tolgapiyam as well as celebrated poetic writings like Pathupattu, Kalitogai and Sivakasindamani. Since there are no creative writings, long or short, in his name, we may conclude that his desire was to specialize in interpretation of classics, and that has proved to be his forte. His commentaries witness to his vast erudition, his mastery of Tamil and Sanskrit, his expertise in arts other than literature, his knowledge of the Tamil society of his time, and above all his wisdom. Though there is no authentic account of Nachinarkiniyar's life, we may infer certain details from the Pairam to his commentary written by one of his admirers. Vandu imir solai Maduraburithanil en tisai vilanga vanda asan பயின்ற கேள்வி பாரத்துவாசன் நன்மறை துணிந்த நற்பொருள் ஆகிய தூய ஞானம் நிறைந்த சிவச்சுடர் தானே ஆகிய தன்மையாளன் நவின்ற வாய்மை நச்சினார்க்கு இனியன். The short piece states that he was a famous teacher who lived in the beautiful city of Madurai, a learned man belonging to the Bharadwaja Gotra and a wise devotee of Lord Shiva, well versed in the Vedas. It also pays a glowing tribute to its subject's capacious mind and powers of comprehension. This is what the poem says. பார்க்கடல் போல பரந்த நன்னெறி நூற்படுவான் பொருள் நுண்ணிதின் உணர்ந்த போக்கரு கேள்வி புலவோர் புலத்தின் நாற்பொருள் பொதிந்த தாக்கமை யாப்பினை தேக்கிய சிந்தையன். The claim that he was a Saivite Brahmin has been disputed by some Tamil scholars who are of the view that he was a Jain through and through, as evidenced by his commentary on Sivakasindamani. Lord Shiva is called Nachinarkiniyar by Appar in his Tevaram and by Shivajnana Munivar in his Kanji Puranam. இச்சையால் மலர்கள் தூவி இரவோடு பகலும் தம்மை நச்சினார்க்கினியர் போலும் நாகபீச்சரமனாரே. திஸ் இஸ் தேவாரம். நச்சினார்க்கினியாய் போற்றி எனத்துதி நவிலும் காலை. திஸ் இஸ் காஞ்சி புராணம். In his explications, he quotes numerous passages from Saivite texts, including Tiruvasagam, Tirukkovayar, Tiruvulapuram, Tirumurugatrupadai. On the basis of his reference to the doctrine of Tattvamasi, thou art that, it is also claimed by some that he is a Smarta Brahmin of Advaitic persuasion. But in no place does he express his aversion to other religions. Thirumal is called by him Nilangadanda Nedumudi Annal, and the Vengadam hill, the place from where the world got its redemption by undertaking tapas. In order to explain the passage அருளோடு புணர்ந்த அகர்ச்சி in புறத்தினையியல், he cites a poem praising Buddha's renunciation. The story goes that since his first interpretation of Sivakasindamani was not acceptable to the Jains of his time because of certain howlers, he joined a Jain monastery calling himself a Jain, learnt the Jain theology and the social practices, and then came out with a second interpretation which won their wholehearted praise. Some Tamil scholars were tempted to think that Nachar, one of the first 10 commentators on Tirukkural, was the same as Nachinarkiniyar and that his commentary had been lost. But this contention is otherwise baseless, because there is evidence to indicate that Nachinarkiniyar lived after Parimelazhagar, the last of the 10 commentators, whereas Nachar was anterior to Parimelazhagar. Neither in Nachinarkiniyar's writings nor in any of the old sources listing the commentaries on Tirukkural is there a mention of commentary by Nachinarkiniyar. The medieval Tamil commentators such as Elamburanar, Perasiriyar, Nachinarkiniyar, Parimelazhagar and Adiyarku Nallar are in no way inferior to their counterparts in any other part of the world. That they are world class is being increasingly recognized now in the West, in their understanding of the poetic process, in their experience of poetry, in their exegesis and appreciation, and in their handling of the two tools of criticism, comparison and analysis. They can stand comparison with the medieval Jewish commentators as well as with the modern Western critics led by Coleridge. Apart from explaining the given passage lucidly, Nachinarkiniyar would explain its significance in relation to the poem as a whole, add grammatical and linguistic notes on individual words and phrases where necessary, point out where the subject, predicate and object are to be found, cite parallel passages from great classics, and include lengthy discussions on complex religious, theological, literary and sociological topics of interest. Identifying the salient features of Nachinarkiniyar's commentary, Dr. Bower observes, he says, Nachinarkiniyar's comments are very much on the plan of European annotations. He paraphrases the text and points out grammatical peculiarities. He quotes Tolgapya Sutrams throughout, explains obsolete terms and gives the various readings which existed in his day. But his style is condensed and his language pedantic. His productions, however, show great powers of analysis. This is Bower's estimate. It is true that Nachinarkiniyar's style is condensed like the styles of most of these commentators, as all of them believed in the dictum that brevity is the soul of wit. But one is surprised to hear from Bower that the commentator's language is pedantic. It may be complex, subtle, learned and poetic, and many modern readers, native and alien, may find it difficult to comprehend at times, but it is never pedantic. These commentators believe in creative criticism and are therefore bent upon making their prose as aesthetically gratifying as possible. Without making much ado, Nachinarkiniyar would explain any complex idea or passage in as few words as possible. He won't waste his energy or try the reader's patience by laboring to interpret what is self-explanatory. When a stanza in Chindamani is too simple and does not merit any comment, he would say that the meaning is obvious and pass on to the next one. While interpreting every Nurpa in Tolgapyam, he keeps the entire treatise in mind and wants the reader also to remember that the particular Nurpa is to be considered in the context in which it is found in a large work dealing with the alphabet, the word and the subject matter of poetry. While examining what happens in a stanza in Chindamani, he brings to the reader's notice wherever necessary what happened earlier and what is to happen later. Never missing the wood for the trees, he would draw the attention of the reader to the significance of every word in the poem as well as of every event in the long story. He has done to the great Tamil epic what the modern critic R.S. Crane does to the famous novel Tom Jones. Being aware of the close link between language and literature and their inseparability, Nachinarkiniyar would draw upon a grammatical work while interpreting a literary piece and vice versa. The one serious charge levelled against Nachinarkiniyar time and again is that he grossly misuses the concept of Mattu in his interpretations. But with regard to this, he has been more sinned against than sinning. Mattu as a limb of the poetic body is defined by Tolgapyar in a Nurpa in Seyyuliyal. This is the definition. Agandru porul kedappinum, anugiya nilayinum, இயன்று பொருள்முடிய தந்தனர் உணர்த்தல் மாட்டன மொழிவ பாட்டியல் வழக்கின். The first two lines of சிறுபானாற்றுப்படை, மணிமலை பனைத்தோள் மாநில மடந்தை அணிமுலை துயல்வரும் ஆரம்போல are taken as பனைத்தோள் மாநில மடந்தை மணிமலை அணிமுலை துயல்வரும் ஆரம்போல for the sake of interpretation. Similarly, another pair of lines from the same poem, செல் புனல் உழந்த செய்வரல் காண்யாற்று கொள்கரை நறும்பொழில், becomes செய்வரல் கரைகொள் காண்யாறு செல் புனல் உழந்த நறும்புழல் in his explication. In the Patinappalai line, வசையில் புகழ் வயங்கு வெண்மீன், the phrase வசையில் புகழ், that is blameless fame, is taken to qualify the noun Kaviri in the 6th line. In all these three cases, Nachinarkiniyar's interpretations, by changing the order of words, are better than the other possible interpretations suggested by his detractors. Maraimalai Adigal takes him to task for taking refuge in Mattu in his explication of Mullaipattu, where he wants to demonstrate that the dominant Thinai in the poem is Mullai and not Neithal or Palai. In a Mullai poem, the heroine has to be represented as one that is patiently waiting for the hero's return on the appointed day, without giving room for frustration or total disillusionment. But in the poem, the queen weeps, becomes pale and lean, and keeps lying in bed. The attempt of her companions to console her by reading the omens and uttering words of encouragement is of no avail. In order to reconcile this with the conception of Mullai and to justify what Napputhanaar has done, Nachinarkiniyar interprets all the symptoms of despair as referring to what happened on the day of separation, when the heroine realized that the hero might leave her. The reading of the verbal omen also took place during the time when the companions tried to assure her that the whole thing would eventuate in the victorious return of the king. Justifying the repetition of the phrase Kattavum Kanal, the commentator observes that they explain first his fame and his capabilities, and secondly the greatness of the enemies who can be defeated only by her husband, whose sense of honor forces him to undertake this arduous expedition.